Today's story is about a man who was born of noble blood, raised in the church, and became infatuated with the idea of being a martyr after a friend of his had died in the mission field and was labeled a martyr from the church. Bruno of Querfurt was born in 974 AD. I didn't have like an exact month that he was born, just sometime within that year. I couldn't really find anything on his mother and father, just that he was born of noble blood, and he may or may not have been related to Otto the Third, who was a Holy Roman Emperor in the time, during the times. Some things say that he was, but there seems to be some pretty significant debate that he was not. So possibly. Either way, they were really close. And they, kind of spent quite a bit of time together. At the age of 6, Bruno was sent to Archbishop Adalbert of Magdeburg, and he was sent to him to study at the cathedral school there. And Bruno was known to be like a really good student. He was attentive. He, was kind, and he was just like an all around like good student. When Bruno was still like a young lad, he was made priest of the cathedral there.
I need an old priest and a young priest.
I don't know the exact age. Again, I couldn't really find exact dates or exact age on this. Just everything just seemed to say like when he was a young lad. And so he was he was really close to Otto, and Otto obviously trusted him. So he was made chaplain of the court. And a year later, Bruno traveled with Otto to Rome when Bruno was becoming crowned the emperor. While in Rome, Bruno meets this guy named Archbishop Adalbert of Prague. Bruno and Adalbert of Prague, they got along really well, and they studied together, and they just, they became like companions, like friends. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, we seem to be having some technical difficulties.
About a year after meeting Adalbert of Prague, Adalbert of Prague, he goes off to Prussia to lead a mission there. And while there, he is killed and labeled a martyr of the church. It's at this time that Bruno kind of comes like infatuated almost with the idea of being a martyr. I don't know if he was just like, ooh, yeah, I want to do that, or if he was just like inspired, by Adalbert's death. Like, well, he went out and he risked his life to share the gospel with people, and I should have that same kind of passion. But either way, Bruno was known for becoming, infatuated with the whole idea of being a martyr.
I want to do that.
After Adalbert's death, Bruno just kind of hangs for a little while, and he spends some time at the monastery where Adalbert of Prague had been at, where he had lived. And he doesn't become a monk while he is there. He's just studying. And he begins to also write his book, The Life of Adalbert of Prague. A little while later, in 998, Bruno goes to Pereum, and he joins the Benedictine monastery there that Otto had started up. This particular monastery is run by this guy named Saint Romuald. And Romuald is known for being the founder of the Camaldoli reform, which is just the act of bringing back the tradition of monks living the lives of hermits within the monastery. While he is there, Bruno undergoes intense ascetic training, and this training is meant to deepen one's faith and cultivate the mind. And Bruno underwent this training while he was at the monastery. Um, this training consisted of like manual labor, so not that big of a deal. It consisted of nightly vigils. Okay. It was he also had to fast every day except for Sundays and Thursdays. So like no eating unless it's Sunday or Thursday. And that would be really hard for me. But if you have like the will, you could probably push through and that it would be fine. It would be fine. Especially if they're like living life of hermits, they're not out there like jogging. So I guess like a low calorie thing is okay. But then it also included regular like scourging on the back, on the bare back. And it was also during this time that Bruno he gets very ill and he gets a high fever and he's just real sick for a little while. He may have had like an infection from being basically being beat and then being also malnutritioned
That's why you need food.
because he wasn't really eating all that much. But I don't know. Nobody seemed to really say. This may also be the reason why Romaldi was rumored to be like uncomfortably holy. Um, And at one point, he actually gets kicked out, or not like kicked out, because I don't even know if you could kick somebody out of a monastery, but kind of like pushed out of a monastery at some point.
He needs to go.
I don't know if it was this one. Like, I could find lots of stuff about how he was uncomfortably holy, but not really any details on where he had been like pushed out of. But at some point, that happens. In 1003, Bruno is named Archbishop by the Pope at the time, Sylvester II. But he isn't actually consecrated as the Archbishop until February of 1004 by this Archbishop Magdeburg, not the same guy that had taught him whenever he was younger. This is a different one. It's immediately following this that Bruno is given the task of going to Poland and leading a mission out to Poland, to the Polish people. And Bruno leaves immediately after receiving like his orders. And again, this is like February, and this is February in some pretty cold areas. So on their travels out, it was said that it was so cold that Bruno's boots kept like getting stuck to the stirrups of his horse, and he had to like kick his boots off, to like break the ice so that he could actually get off of his horse.
Feet are frozen.
On Bruno's way out to Poland, he actually gets delayed because war breaks out between the Holy Roman Emperor Henry II and Duke Boleslas of Poland. So Bruno can't get in. They're all in battle right now. And so he decides to take a detour to Hungary and kind of like wait things out. And while he is in Hungary, he visits all of the places that Adalbert of Prague had visited when he was there on his mission. And it's also during this time that Bruno will complete his writings on the life of Adalbert of Prague. He also talks to the leaders of like the Hungarian leaders and tries to convert them. But he receives a boatload of pushback between the Hungarian leaders and the monks, like the Greek monks that are currently there. And so Bruno decides that he is just going to just walk away.
Okay.
Great, let it lie. That's my policy.
In December of 1007, Bruno goes out he travels out to Kiev and he meets with the Grand Duke Vladimir. And Vladimir is Olga of Kiev's grandson. Do you remember Olga of Kiev? Have you watched that video? This is her grandson. So this is some time like after Olga passes away. Bruno stays with Vladimir for about a month and they hang out and spend some time together and they become friends, I guess. So Vladimir gives Bruno access to land where the Pashtunjan people live. And these guys are like semi-nomadic Turkic people, and they live along the Black Sea, like between the Danube, yeah, and Don River. Bruno spends about 5 months here with these people, and it's during this time that he ends up baptizing like around 30 adult men. It's also during this time, while Bruno is with the Pashtunjan people, that he actually helped to bring up a peace treaty between um, the Grand Duke Vladimir of Kiev and the Pashtunjan, because they've not always had like a wonderful happy-go-lucky get along type of relationship. And so Bruno, he helped with that and just kind of helped bring these people to some form of peace while he was there. In 1008, Bruno and about 18 of his companions head out to found a mission to convert old Prussians. While they're, like on their travels, on their mission, they end up meeting and converting this guy, Nedimir, and his like 300 men that he has with him. From Nedimir, it's thought that Bruno and his men were headed to Yatvinga in Russia when they come across some men. Now, on their way, like on their travels, these guys, Bruno and his companions, they have talked to any and everybody that will listen, just preaching the gospel all along their way, telling everybody the good news, and it's been great. They haven't really had any issues. But when they reach an area somewhere along eastern Masovia, they receive some severe opposition and some really not so happy people come across their path. When they come across this opposition, Bruno ends up being beheaded, and his companions, um, they all are hung. Now it's thought, or like some sources say, that the opposition that they came across was led by this guy named Zebedee. And Zebedee is the brother of Nedimir, the guy who, Bruno and his companions had like just converted, not too long ago. So I don't know if that had anything to do with the issues that they had run into and why they were so angry with Bruno, or if it had to do with something else, if it was just a coincidence. News makes it back to Duke Boleslas that Bruno and his companions had been killed, and he was fond of Bruno. He was a fellow Christian, and so the Duke decided to buy Bruno's body back and his companion. So I don't know. I guess I don't know how that works. How you just go, oh, hey, that guy that you killed last week? Yeah, I'm gonna need that body. I don't really know how that whole transaction went down, but he buys the body of Bruno and his companions, so bodies, and has them sent back to Poland and has Bruno and his companions buried in Poland, and they get like a Christian burial there. The Prussians, they end up naming the town of Braunsburg after Bruno. Supposedly, they named the town after Bruno to kind of to honor his name and his works. Soon after being killed, Bruno and becoming a martyr, Bruno he is canonized as a saint within the church. During his life, Bruno had given his all to God and like for God. This guy literally like died just to share the word of God with the people, with the pagans in that area. Bruno was successful in evangelizing the Swedes. He had converted hundreds of Prussians, and not to mention like the teachings and all the people that he spoke to whenever he was a priest when he was younger. Though his acts may have been few in comparison to others of the time and before and after Bruno, and may seem disappointing to some, when I was doing my readings, like a couple of like sites that I had read, they kind of were just like, yeah, he was all right. Like he did a couple things, he talked to some people, but they saw him as somewhat like disappointing and not all that amazing. And I guess whenever like you compare him to some of the people at the times, he's not as like accomplished as others. But this guy was, I mean, I think like whenever he was younger, he had already like had it in his mind, like I'm willing to die if that's what it takes to like reach people from the farthest points that I can go. And I think that just right there is just kind of, I mean, that makes him an amazing guy, because I know most people wouldn't do that. Like I would probably at least question it, you know. Um, so even though his feats may seem disappointing to some, Bruno was able to, at the end of the day, accomplish all that God had given him to do. And he did exactly what God calls us to do. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. As usual, if you like any of the makeup that I did, I will put a link in the description below for you so you can see that.
But first, an interesting side note.
I really need to go get my hair cut so I can actually fix it. If you liked today's video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel, and you can hit the little bell and get a notification every single time I upload. And we upload each Wednesday. Until next week, y'all have a fabulous week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.